Thank you for joining us. A mother from Doncaster who every day cares for her severely disabled son says she's terrified about losing their home when the cost of energy goes up next month.
Samantha told me son Lewis has an extremely rare form of Batten disease, so rare that only a handful of people in the world have been diagnosed with it. And Lewis needs a range of equipment, including a ventilator, to keep him alive. But his mum says she's losing sleep over whether she can afford the electricity needed to run it.
Next month, the energy price cap, which controls what most households pay for energy, will rise by 10%. Samantha is backing calls for vulnerable families to receive more support, as Emma Wilkinson reports.
In their home of 15 years, Samantha is always by her son's side. But to help him live, Lewis also relies on a range of machines you might normally see on an intensive care ward.
Well, Lewis' son's ventilator now. He's on his humidifier, which I think is probably the thing that uses the most electricity. It's like you're having a kettle running all the time. And as long as he's inside, that's running. And the SATS monitor's running all the time while he's inside, so that we can know how he's doing. So there's a lot of electricity running all the time. It's all to do with just Lewis's life support.
Lewis has a rare type of Batten disease, an incurable degenerative condition. Up until he was 2, Lewis grew and developed as expected, but then he started to limp, and soon he'd lost the ability to walk, talk and swallow. Now, aged 20, he needs the support of constantly running equipment, and the energy cost is met by Samantha, a cost that already required sacrifices, and one she says is now set to rise considerably.
Getting a projection of my next direct debit, which is due up at the end of this month, being nearly double what it is now, from £243 to £675 a month, that was actually terrifying. And so you think all sorts of things. I was thinking, I won't be able to pay the rent, we're going to lose our home, where are we going to live? It's so difficult because you think we're so grateful that our family member is here, so grateful they're at home, but at the same time, don't leave us in a position where we're struggling to keep them alive at home because we can't afford it. I'm so scared that I can't give him what he needs, that this could create a situation where I can't keep him safe. Make this one out your mouth, darling.
Lorraine is a community nurse and sees firsthand the strain some families are under trying to pay for life-saving equipment at home.
I'm just hoping that maybe a social tariff will come in and, bridge that gap, because at the minute it's tragic, really. It's just extra stress and more worry, and they just don't deserve it.
Samantha doesn't want to go into debt. She's paying what she can and cutting back where she can. But she worries about whether it will be enough, all the time trying to hide that worry from Lewis.
I tend to have my moments in private, in the bathroom or in my room at night when no one can see me. He keeps me going. He smiles and he laughs and he loves life. Every night I say to him, I love you, I'll see you in the morning, I promise. And that's his promise to me as well, that he'll still be there in the morning.
And while Samantha pours all of her energy into caring for her son, she lives under a cloud of anxiety about whether she can afford her next energy bill. Emma Wilkinson, ITV News, Doncaster.
It's a totally upsetting situation to find yourself in. Well, campaigners for people living with disabilities and those who care for them say the financial pressures of rising energy prices this winter will leave many like Samantha in an impossible position.
One of the measures they're pushing for is a social tariff which would offer discounted prices to reduce the burden on those most vulnerable households. Well, earlier I spoke to Anna Bird from Contact, which is a charity for families with disabled children, and I began by asking her what difference that could make.
It could be really vital to introduce a social tariff. It could make a huge difference. There are about 100,000 families with critically ill children in the UK, and many of them are using life-saving equipment every day, washing more, heating their homes more, and it costs a lot. So in this time where energy energy prices are sky high, a social tariff would make a huge difference to families and could be the difference between, you know, sort of getting by this winter or really struggling to pay the rent, to heat their homes, to put food on the table.
Because we've seen in our report the anguish it's already causing. How many cases do you know of in which people are losing sleep and they're frightened for what's to come?
Yeah, I mean, we run a helpline at Contact and we speak to families every day who are struggling to pay the bills, and the energy costs are one of the biggest things we hear about. As I said, there's 100,000 families in the UK with critically ill children. Some of those will be, like Samantha, having to pay for extraordinary amounts of equipment in their homes. And it is really frightening for families. People are, you know, facing crisis. They really cannot afford the basics. So a social tariff is one way of dealing with this issue. We on our helpline help families to maximise their benefits, claim what they are entitled to through the benefit system. It just doesn't go far enough, so we need to tackle the problem at source and ask energy companies to bear some of this burden.
How quickly does that need to happen, and what needs to happen?
I mean, we're facing a winter where bills are rocketing. We know that the energy price cap has increased by 10%. So it needs to happen now so that families have comfort this winter that they're going to be able to afford the bills. And I think this new government has an opportunity to introduce something quickly that will make a huge difference to a small number of families, but families who are really facing the most significant issues.
Okay. Anna Bird from Contact, thank you very much for your time.
Thanks very much.
You're watching Monday Night's Calendar with Ian White and Lisa Adler.